Hello. In this video, I'm going to talk about my current skincare general routine. I don't follow it to a militaristic T, but it's a general skincare routine that I currently follow given my lifestyle and surrounding climate. Um, so one caveat that I want to add is that this routine may not be applicable for anyone or everyone besides me. I'm just sharing what has worked for me. And, if anything that I say has is helpful to you, then I'm so happy. I'm so happy. And also, huge disclaimer here. Um, I am not a doctor. I have been taught by many doctors, but I am not a doctor. Please do not take this as um, your medical advice. If you need to see a healthcare provider, please see a healthcare provider. Thank you. Okay, moving on. So, in general, things that I found have worked extremely effectively for me just over time in terms of lifestyle is a great source of nutrition um, with really fresh, healthy, dark leafy greens. So, for example, kale. Which is rich in vitamin K and all sorts of other fiber and all sorts of other good minerals and nutrients. And I will admit that I have lived in LA for was it about 5 years in the past, and the kale culture is real. Um, But, and back then there was sort of this health, um, people would kind of joke about it being health obsessed or being a health nut. Personally, I think it could be phrased as being health conscious, um, being health oriented, as it does have less of a negative connotation. But I know that you know, those other terms are being used in a joking manner, not in a pejorative manner. So, when in doubt, if one is faced with a black and white situation, um, if it's one could frame it in a more positive situation. And I find that in general that helps with one's health. Um, so having a good source of nutrition. And for some reason, like dark leafy greens is extremely, like when I eat it more regularly and introduce it into my diet, my skin literally looks shinier. And, I don't need to take it in like that powder form or supplement form. I'll just like, put it in a smoothie or eat it from a salad. That's how I personally prefer to consume kale. Um, but to each their own. Um, Also getting really good regular sleep. For me, on average, about 8 hours is what my natural circadian rhythms just clocks into. When I've had periods where I've built up sleep debt, it just kind of knocks me off. But when I get back into my state of homeostasis, usually about 8 hours. And I know this because what I'll do is I'll, fall asleep at whatever time and then wake up um without the use of an alarm clock. And it typically ends up being around 8 hours. Yeah, I can still do stuff. I've been able to work and learn and do things less than 8 hours with less than 8 hours of sleep and then more, but that's more kind of like outside of the area. And I know that there's some super like humans out there that um are actually able to function only on like let's say like 4 hours of sleep per night average, and they actually that's like what they need for whatever reason, like they can't do more than that, they can't do less. um what else? hmm about the sleep, I think there was one more thing that I was going to say. Oh yes, now I remember. There has been occasion that when I needed to wake up at a certain time and I didn't have a an alarm clock or a phone alarm to wake me up, but I set an intention in my mind. I was like, I have to wake up at 4 a.m. or I can't. Oh, I gotta make this. And usually that's like historically for me, it has been to like make flights, that are booked for like 4 a.m. Somehow it's as if like my mind, like in my subconscious, I've like implanted a seed. I would like my body will just like wake up at that time or will be extremely super alert. However, this can be a little bit stressful, I think. So it's not something I would recommend for myself, at least forever. Okay, so nutrition, sleep, also physical activity. I find that any kind of regular physical activity about like 3 to 5 times a week where I get to a level of exertion where I'm physically sweating out of my pores is really good for my skin health. Um, and it's totally fine to like I don't always like wash my skin after a workout, but it's generally good practice too. But I find like after a great workout, my face is glowing after like 2 to 3 days. So those are sort of like the general lifestyle rules I follow for great skincare, as well as like um any techniques that can help mitigate stress from work, from life, managing personal responsibilities, all that kind of stuff. Although I guess I don't think of it as responsibilities anymore. I try to think of it more as fun. Um, in any case, that being said, moving on to more of the products that I currently use. So I'll take about like a morning shower, usually daily. Sometimes I skip every other day, depending. Like today, I took a shower, but I didn't rinse my hair because I wanted it to build more um, of my natural oil and sebum in the hair. So that's one trick that I learned from, I think it was a hairstylist from Avita Hair Salon, long, long time ago. Um, in any case, the first, so once I stepped out of the shower, my pores are all like nice and open and freshly hydrated. I like to add, spritz this on, the hydrating facial mist by Nature Love with hyaluronic acid and aloe vera. And it's just like a nice freshening base layer to add. Um, Looking at the ingredients list, it's perfectly safe, at least to me. I have no personal allergic reactions to this. And for some reason, aloe vera is what is really effective for me and my skin and my hair um, care in products. So I really love this facial mist. It's not really necessary, but it definitely adds a little bit of oomph and luxuriousness to my routine. And I found this at TJ Maxx, a local TJ Maxx. I think what really drew me in, I actually didn't do any research when I bought this. I was just kind of like, oh, I have to have it. I love the glass bottle of the frosted glass design. Um, and it was so beautiful to me. So that's a keeper currently. Secondly, I am currently using Beauty of Chosun Revive Eye Serum, ginseng plus retinol. Um, so I first learned of retinol products in grad school. I will say I probably was aware of retinol products before then, but I really didn't really know why people used retinol and like it's the scientific chemical, biochemical reasons for um, using retinol for anti-aging. But this retinol product is um, true to its branding. It smells, there is a smell of ginseng. And it's a very light formula, delicate, and I just dab it on under the eyes and I add on my forehead. Um, in recent years, I've been seeing a little bit more of like fine lines and wrinkles here, so I've just been adding that in. So that's what I do. Um, who knows if it's effective, but it's fun. Um, Next is one of my favorite products I've ever found in my life. I found it at a Rite Aid, is Maybelline's Dream Baby Fresh. Skin hydrating beauty balm, 8-in-1 skin perfector, titanium dioxide sunscreen, broad spectrum SPF 30, 110 light slash medium sheer tint. And looking at the ingredients list, titanium dioxide is 1.15% as the active ingredient as a sunscreen. So this is perfect for me because it's like a multi-use, all-in-one thing that just is travel sized and easy to apply, ready to go. It's like really great bang for your buck kind of situation. And it fits all the criteria that I was looking for in like sheer skin coverage because I don't like to use like heavy foundation. Um, and I just want something that can easily, um, let's say, even out my skin tone, but also want a sheer coverage, have sun protection, and I'm looking more towards a physical sunscreen. So titanium dioxide or zinc dioxide. Um, this is perfect. And, looking online, I found that people say a potential con of physical sunscreens are that it feels more physically heavier, but luckily this product formula is actually very thin. It's not heavy as most physical sunscreens are. I mean the makeup is 1.15%. In comparison, I have an actually um, like just sunscreen, mineral sunscreen for the face that isn't a makeup. Um, the zinc oxide content is 21.6%. And it is a bit heavier, I will say, in terms of application, but it's not, to me at least, it doesn't feel that heavy. Anyways, so this is what it looks like. And as I apply it in, you can see it sort of evens out. I mean, and I'm okay with seeing a few um spots, freckles here and there. I'm not here to like completely like, you know, remove every single like melanic dot on my face. Um, but it's just like a general appearance that is presentable to the public. All right, enough of that. Next, so already have shown this. My favorite sunscreen I've ever used so far in my life. Aveeno's Positively Mineral Sensitive Skin Sunscreen, broad spectrum SPF 50 for the face, sweat and water resistant. So, um, people have different opinions about sunscreens, but I personally first learned that, chemical sunscreens the chemicals can kind of leach off into the water you know, and it can be negligible, but in the past, I used to work in like as a full-time job setting, working with chemicals that are known to be toxic. Obviously, they were like small amounts, so it wasn't going to kill me, but it was like a chronic, repeated exposure over time. And like the more that I worked in that environment and handling these chemicals, so for one of them was osmium tetroxide. Um, and they're incredibly diluted and there was all kinds of safety equipment there. And I was completely safe. There was a safety hood, I had a mask, I had supervisors helping me. I had a dedicated protocol that, I had to tweak over time for a project, but I was still working with these chemicals, resins that I had to cast cells in, cancer cells, or no, not cancers, just proliferative cell lines that, and then shave them off over time. But every time I use the chemicals, I just like felt, ugh. So I'm glad that I don't have to do that anymore. Um, And, if you really, really, if you think about it, if you really, really loved yourself and you really, really could take a choice in your life, like what kind of environment would you put yourself in? Like, what kind of a house would you live in? Would you live in a house that is made out of plastic that would just degrade into like chemicals leaching off as you sleep over time? No, I hope you wouldn't if you had a choice, right? Um, like most houses are made out of like good insulated natural materials, or if they are manufactured and synthesized in some way, they're safe to live in for a very long time. Um, not mentioning really old houses like from like what the 18 was it like the 1800s with lead or whatever. But yeah, that's my spiel on plastics, minerals. Oh, and we love baby sea turtles. Um, Last for the skin is La Roche-Posay's Effaclar Matte. I don't use this as much anymore, but I love this product when I first started grad school. A, because I don't have to use like powder, which is like really finicky and just gets everywhere. And it has just, it's so effective at what it does. Beautiful coverage and moisturizing. It feels cooling without feeling greasy. I think it was the first time I found a moisturizer, um, like a lotion moisturizer, where it didn't feel greasy at all. It was mind blowing. So it has a bit of a transparent color. It's transparent. It smells maybe a little bit. It doesn't have a fragrance really. It's like not the most like pleasant. Maybe a little chemically, who's to say, but extremely, extremely recommend anyone who is dealing with a greasy face and um, wants to combat that. It's very easy to apply as well. Okay. Oh, last but not least is this Nature Loves Balancing Facial Toner with rose water and witch hazel. So it's interesting. I also don't really need to use toner as much because if toner is more, I don't know. Some people say it's more drying. Some people say it's more moisturizing. I've heard a lot of things over the years, but I think witch hazel is a bit more astringent, at least for me. Um, I have tried Thayer's witch hazel toner that is extremely popular and well liked, and I've seen everywhere, like across the nation in many stores. I Thayer's just was too dry for me. It was too, and it was a little bit irritating. So this has been a good compromise. Maybe my skin has just become more sensitive over time. Who knows? But I love my skin. Um, what else? So though, okay, so that's just sort of a wrap up on the products that I personally use and is extremely effective for me as sort of like a minimalist, presentable thing going on, and I quite enjoy that. Um, this next section of the video, I'm going to talk about, excuse me, um, other products that I've used, in the past for very consistently for PCOS. And this is short for polycystic ovarian syndrome. So I've heard a lot of things about PCOS. I'm not going to get into everything about it. Um, I will just tell you what has worked for me. So in the past, when I was in grad school, and it was during the pandemic, and I was feeling like there was a high amount of level of stress in my life, I was having these sort of breakouts. I think there might be a few like leftover marks from that time. Here, and I think around here as well. And I hadn't had that pattern of acne in my life before. And I believe it was stress hormones and also the way that you wearing those blue masks over time was just like constantly irritating my skin. So what I did was I went online and I found, I think there was an ad that was targeted to me and my demographic, apostrophe. I think it's like an online dermatology consult clinic. I think it's like black text with like a yellow background logo. Um, and at the time when I was studying, I found I selected um a pill that I requested for a pill that I thought would be a good match for my needs at the time. And that was spironolactone. And the reasons why I chose spironolactone was that I was feeling like I was slightly edematous, or third spacing out in my calves area, like they were a little puffy. Sometimes, I've had a bit of high blood pressure, but it's not like that's more from stress. But, spironolactone is a known diuretic. Um, what else? Spironolactone can help with hormonal acne. And there weren't any contraindications or any reasons why I shouldn't at least trial it out with a healthcare provider that I trust. So I had a virtual consultation with the dermatologist that I chose from from Apostrophe, and she agreed. She asked for pictures. I sent in what I had, and she agreed to it, and I stuck to the regimen, and it actually was quite effective. I think I think I did pee a bit more as a result, and I felt a little bit drier, but maybe I was retaining water a bit more. Maybe that's what I needed. So, um, yeah, that's the first product that I've used for my skin in relation to a past high stress, possible PCOS related history um, time. The second thing that I've used is vitamin D because in grad school, I was in an environment and a climate that was known to have low levels of natural sunlight exposure. So even if the sun was extremely bright and shiny, I was told, at least at the time, that due to the location, geographical location, the I guess the vitamin D or the UV rays, something about it was not as great for the skin. Like it wasn't filtering in atmospherically. I don't know, but I also was working and studying with very low levels of just being outside anyway. So just taking 2000 IU was a I found actually helped. Like, and I know this because when I stopped taking the vitamin D, my mood felt a little bit less. And I don't know, it could have been placebo. I will not rule that out. But some people do say that vitamin D helps. I don't really use it anymore now. I'll like maybe pop in like once or twice if I feel like I haven't gone outside for a while, but I don't really feel the need to. Um, Lastly is this cool supplement, Wholesome Stories, Myo and D Chiro Inositol dietary supplement. So this is cool. They have vegetarian capsules as well. Um, this is a company, it looks like it's based out of Seattle, Washington. Um, what's really great is that it's it doesn't really have a lot of ingredients, like other ingredients other than the active ingredients you can see here. They're just two. Methyl cellulose, which is just what's used to make the capsule, and rice flour. So it's kind of like low levels of processing and very gentle in formula to me. So it's vegan friendly. It's that's part of the brand. It's vegan friendly. It's 100% clean ingredients. Um, and the recommended dosage is 4 capsules daily, preferably for the meal or as directed by a physician. For those with a sensitive constitution, take 1/2 of the serving, two capsules at once, twice per day. So I think I've looked online at other people who've used this and found it effective, and different women have found different um, dosages effective. Like some people need the 4 and some people need the 2. I think before I was more on the 2 side, um, consistently. Currently, I don't, um, I'll do 4 like once in a while. It's interesting because back then when I was regularly taking this, and it actually did induce it was very effective at inducing my flow at a regular pace. And um, here's the kicker. There were no, I didn't feel any side effects. Like, like a lot of people have complaints about with hormonal birth control. And this is like scientifically like valid from a chemical standpoint. Because the inositol is found in the IP3 pathway, and inositol, like anything ending with OL as a um, chemical, is a sugar-based molecule, or if you studied chemistry or biochemistry, like OH is an alcohol, and the sugar helps regulate insulin. Um, that's all I'm going to go into detail about that pathway because, there's so many different ways to think about pathways and construct and diagram them. But like that's all I'm going to get into. But nevertheless, this was extremely effective, very safe for me. Um, cannot recommend this enough for anyone who actually needs it, who is struggling with PCOS and needs a more sensitive supplement. What's interesting for me is that over time, when my lifestyle became less stress and more joyous, and I became, you know, more and more abundant, I found that my period comes back naturally and with less with less of a need for, external pills. And I think a good healthcare provider wants that in a wants to see that in their patient. They want to see their patient thrive. They don't want them to be dependent on a pill. Obviously they'll treat the condition, but they want them to get them off. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I will continue to stay on this trajectory of like not needing to rely on like polypharmacy and all of those kinds of things. But um super happy with current skincare um things that I've used and happy to share them with you. I will try my best to add information about the products that I've talked about in the description below. Again, these are just things that have worked for me. If if you really need to see a healthcare provider, please see them. Like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. So I just want to make that very clear. If you've made it to the end of this video, thank you for watching, and I'll see you around.